Welcome back to Sunrise Daily, and we're still keeping our focus on the task ahead before the Buhari administration. And just coming from Abuja studios, where Mogbe had Dr. Ikechukwu of Development Specs Abuja, where she did ask some ending questions there on about that has to do with the currency of the Nigerian people and whether or not he believes if that will have improved, if he has confidence, if that will improve. Perhaps that will be a good place to take it up from. Dr. Vincent Duane now joins us. He's an investment and business consultant. Thank you so much indeed for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you for having me.
You know, that is a very, very important question that Mogbe asked there. Do you have confidence? She was asking Dr. Ikechukwu if he has confidence that the Naira will improve. You have come up with some statistics, as a matter of fact. And in your statistics, you have looked at the exchange rate coming from where we were in 2015, putting it at 197 officially, and it is 305 today. Do you have confidence that this will improve?
Well, that's a spot question, and for me, whenever I'm looking at Nigerian currency for now, because about 90% or 95% of our foreign exchange still come from sale of crude oil. You know, so I normally put my eyes on the fate of crude oil. What is the price and what is the quantity we are producing? You know, and looking at the trend of what we're able to produce, about 1.9 million per day, barrels per day now, and the price hovering at what is hovering at, it is very difficult to see exchange rate just gaining a significant value, except if we try to rejig our economy and ensure that we begin to earn foreign exchange from other sources, especially the non-oil. You know, but I think that the most important thing right now is to look at where we are coming from and where we are. And that is exactly what my analysis is all about. All the macroeconomic indicators, where are we? Where were we in 2015, May, June? Where are we right now? So that as we begin to set the agenda for the incoming administration, we will be able to say, okay, in this area we've made gains, in this area we have not done very well, and you build around that and move forward. And also try to compare our economic agenda, which is the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. How far have we achieved? This is a 4-year program from 2017 to 2020. This is 2019. So we have less than 2 years to go as far as this plan is concerned. Where are we? Have we really achieved what we needed to achieve? And are we likely to achieve the objectives, the goal, and the target of this plan? These are critical questions we need to answer. And if you look at macroeconomic indicators, you find out that we've not really done well compared to where we were in 2015. GDP, 2015 around this time was hovering around 4.5%. Today it's about 2.4%. You know, you look at unemployment rate about 10%. Today is about 23-point-something%. So you go on and on and on. The exchange rate you spoke about, official about 197, parallel about 219 in 2015 by this time. But now where are we? 305, 365, or 360, depending on where you are buying from. So these are the things we really need to look at. And this also applies to other economic indicators. You look at
the inflation rate, for instance, that we have on the slide there. If people can see it. What we had then in 2015 was 8.7 as to 11.37% now, and according to you, the high price levels. That's the resultant effect of that.
What's responsible for that?
Of course, we know when we had the exchange rate problem, 65% of everything we use in Nigeria have an import content. You know, so by the time you see your exchange rate increased by about 85%, of course, that flows straight into inflation rate. And this is even the lowest we've had for a long time. We had up to 18.3% early last year. You know, so over time we've moved from 18.4% over the last 18 months to where we are now, about 11.3% thereabouts. So we need to do a lot more to really get our economy stable to a point where we will create jobs and also keep our skills.
Let's back up a little further than 4 years, because when I looked at a few figures as well, I go back to 2010 and we see that these figures have always undulated, rise and fall over time. What is responsible for that, and how can we at least have a progressive movement of these figures that you're talking about?
You know, economic indicators are not static. Economic indicators are the result of actions or inactions, whether positive actions or negative actions or negative so that is, you don't see economic indicator that is just stagnant and look, because it is an aggregate of outcome, and you move from those outcome to also welfare and consequence of what you actually did. Like I mentioned, it was not in our place to control the price of oil that we saw in 2015.
In other words, importation it hasn't helped.
Exactly. So there are things that you can actually control. There are things that you can't control. There are things that are external of this economy. Every part of the world, they are looking at fossil fuel. Jettisoning fossil fuel. I'm looking at renewable energy, the wind, the solar, and the battery system. When this actually happens, what happens to our crude oil? The price of crude oil, of course, have to drop. So the implication of this is that we really need to look inward and begin to plan what happens when all these things come to effect.
Okay. You talked about economic indices and economic factors that are unstable. What role can any progressive economic policy play in stabilizing things?
Of course, it's about progressive economic policy, like you mentioned. In 2017, almost 2 years after the administration, they came up with a very beautiful plan, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, that is the ERGP, and it has a beautiful document with a lot of assumptions. And one of the assumptions there is that by 2020, Nigeria would have grown by 7%, will be growing by 7%. Are we going to achieve that now? We need to inflate the economy. Another key assumption there is that power will be produced about 10,000 megawatts. Now we're doing less than 4,000, where we just flat where we were in 2015. Another key indicator in that document is that.
But the government, if I just should come in here, the government has said that it is doing 7,000 megawatts of electricity as it stands today. Just to clarify that.
Fine, that's a good news. But by this time in 2015, an average household or an average industry office, corporate organization have light about 13 hours a day. Now it's about 5 hours. So it's not even about the megawatts you are producing. It's about being able to connect to electricity whenever you need it. So you can produce and you don't distribute. You can distribute and people are not even able to connect or to pay for it. And during the period, we've seen price of electricity per kilowatt from about 10 naira, 11 naira to 23, 24 naira, depending on whether you are private or commercial consumer. These are some of the issues. You talk about economic policy. We really need to look at our economic policy again and make it such that it is value-driven and also labor-driven.
Policies on what?
Yeah, macroeconomic policy, economic policy. I spoke about the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The Focus Lab, what are the outcomes of the Focus Lab that the Ministry of Economic Planning was driving? How do we begin to create jobs? And the answer is diversifying our revenue sources. Okay. Somebody said diversifying the economy. Economy is already diversified. Our GDP, distribution of GDP, economic activity is very clear that this economy is diversified. But we need to diversify our sources of revenue. And I'm happy with what the FIRS is doing, trying to bring a lot more people into the tax debt. We appeal that they do it, bearing in mind the provisions of the law. But we need to bring more people into the tax net. So as we're doing that also. Okay.
Do you also subscribe to the line of thought, according to Dr. Ikechukwu in our Abuja studios, that we're just merely running an elusive growth in the government today? But if you consider that as factual, what, in your view, must be done to take us away from a growth rate that seems to be an illusion to one that is real, in terms of, say, if you're looking at importation we're basically importing, if you're looking at importation of rice, for instance, what do we do about the borders when we understand that even though the government has got a policy on importation of rice, which will help to encourage local production, we still have reports of smuggled in rice?
For me, to remove elusive growth or to reduce, because we may not reduce it, remove it totally, we need to begin to put ourselves in a position where we can make what we eat, produce what we wear. That is just, and it's not a day job. It has to take a long time. For you to produce what you eat and make what you wear, you have to you have to develop skills and keep your skills. Even the little skills we're developing are leaving the country. In fact, I read a report yesterday that showed that about 88,000 registered doctors, medical doctors in Nigeria, 50,000 of them are practicing abroad, and the remaining 30-something thousand, about 90% of them are seeking to leave the country.
I mean, China
and this type of brain drain applies to other skill areas, engineering, IT skills and everything. So we need to keep our skills, and we need to develop more skills to inflate this economy.
What do we need to do? Sorry, what do you need to keep? I just want to follow up. What do we need to do to keep those skills?
Greener pasture. If you ask, it's greener pasture. You know, it's about demand and supply. Labor is a commodity, and labor want to earn more. It's a commodity, and they want to earn more and also live better, comparing themselves to their colleagues in other jurisdictions across the world.
Apparently, that is also, when they leave, that's jobs for some other people, right? Expectedly.
It's not automatic, because when they leave, there are sectors that are hard to replace. They are living with experience, they are living with their skills. What does it take to train a medical doctor? You're going to spend at least 7 years in school doing both theory and practical, you know, and the cost. So you train, not just the time it takes us to train these people, you train them, and they acquire some level of experience, and they are leaving to work for another economy that never even spend money training them. These are the challenges, and this type of scenario plays along everywhere. So we need to begin to make sure that our people are healthy, give them skills, and retain skills. Very, very